So some people think that somehow or another we can see into walls.
Yeah, they think that if we you notice something wrong, then all of a sudden we can peer through siding or drywall or whatever and see into it. But the reality is we do a visual inspection with what can be seen with the naked eye. What home inspectors provide their clients that is unique is an eye that is educated and experienced. So when we see a clue on the surface enough times in enough different situations, we can make pretty educated guesses about what's going on behind the wall. But even with technology like infrared, and people think that can see in the walls, it cannot. Inspectors cannot see in behind walls.
You know, one of the major things that we see in home inspections is moisture issues. And a lot of times there will be evidence on the surface that there is moisture in that wall. And we have ways of testing for that moisture meters, and we can also do infrared testing. But mostly it's a visual inspection is something that we see on the surface that gives an indication of what may be behind.
Exactly. You know, one way it was explained to us is, as inspectors, we do our best to get on every side of something. So if you imagine a box has 6 sides. We do our best to see everything from every available side. You know, we get into the crawl space, we pull back the insulation and look under the floor. We look at it from in the room, we look at it from outside the home. But no, even with all those abilities, we still cannot see into a wall.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We'll get this question every once in a while that, so do you put a list of what the costs are or what the repair costs are for this list of items that you come up with?
Exactly, and especially when we're going doing a walkthrough with clients, people say, well, how much does this cost or how much does that cost? Maybe going back before home inspections were the way they were today, I think that there were people that was part of the service, and maybe that's where this misconception comes from, is that home inspectors used to put the cost on their reports, they used to estimate cost. Actually today, we are not to do that. We as home inspectors, what our job is to define the problem. We point it out, and then we tell you what type of implication you can expect with it, and then we direct you to the appropriate professional who then can take over the estimating process.
And that's an interesting subject too, because we'll get this, well, why do we have to have a licensed engineer, or why do we have to have a licensed electrical contractor or plumber or general contractor? Why do you specify that that's what needs to be, they need to be the ones to fix the work? We did a re-inspection on a house where there was a water heater that required that the TPRV valve was not piped down to within 6 inches of the floor. And they had repaired it themselves. They hadn't called a licensed plumber, and they just put a little short pipe to fix this. Well, a licensed plumber would have known that would not have been the fix, that it needed to be piped with. So it would have saved a trip if they had just hired a licensed plumber to do the work to start with.
It never ceases to amaze me. We get to the end of a home inspection and a client comes to us and they say, did my house pass or fail?
Yeah. Well, that's not what we do. Basically, a home inspection is actually a visual snapshot of the home at the time of the inspection. We look at the systems of the home and we basically determine whether they are actually operating as they're intended to operate.
Yeah, and that's through a series of directions from we view some things and we operate some things and then make that determination.
So some people think that because we come up with this list that the seller has to fix these items.
Yeah, I actually believe that some people think that as inspectors we must work for the county or the city or something like that, and we're coming in and grading their house and telling them what has to be done. Well, that's not the case at all. That's a big misconception. Actually, what we're doing is providing them with a list of things that are wrong and an overview of the condition of the house, so that moving forward they know what to expect from their roof or the life of their HVAC system, not that they have to do any one thing in particular. Although we do find issues that need to be addressed right away, it is purely up to the client and the parties involved in the sale what they do with what we find.
Right. They can either be fixed now, or they can have a punch list of things that need to be fixed in the near future.
Time and time again, when people call about inspections, they're unsure of whether they can be there. We run into people that don't think they're allowed to be there during the inspection. We run into people who think that they need to be there, they have to be there the whole time.
Yeah, and a lot of times they will ask if they can follow us around, and that's okay as long as we're allowed to focus our attention on the inspection itself.
Yeah, as a client, you have every right to be at the inspection, and it's good to be at that appointment. So what do you think is the optimal thing for them to do?
I think that the best thing for people to do is actually to show up at the end of the inspection and allow us to do a walkthrough and show them what we have discovered during our home inspection.
Exactly. A home inspection report is a little different than the conversation you might have with an inspector. Our home inspection reports are actually very much guided by our license guidelines and how we have to word things and how it's listed. And getting the best understanding we've found is when there can be a conversation between the inspector and client and laying your own eyes on what we're talking about as we're talking about it.
Yeah, it's very important for us to be able to talk about the issue rather than just having a picture and a word description on a report.
People will ask us, should I buy this house when we get to the end of inspection? But that's not what we do at all, is it?
Yeah, that's not what we do at all. It's we basically give an opinion based on our experience of the condition of the home at the time of the inspection.
And maybe even more specifically, individualize the home and the home's systems. So we actually don't even generalize, is this a good or bad home? We tell you what's going on with the exterior, what's going on with the roof, how is the plumbing functioning, and then you get a report on those systems.